Okay everybody, we've been busy with the teardrop build. We have neglected our garden. Here we are going into the third week of April. We haven't done anything, but we've got a big surprise for you. We're going to remake this garden, so we hope that you stay tuned and see what we do. All right, as you can see, our garden has been neglected. We've let the weeds grow up. Everything is unfertilized, and we've decided that we are tired of mowing grass in here and staying after in between the rows. Now, if I didn't spend so much time on the teardrop build, the garden would look a lot better. But I think we still would make the decision that we're making right now, is to lay down the nursery grade woven fabric, and then we're going to eliminate all the grass in here. We're going to put fabric over all the beds that are not planted, and we're going to plant down in there, and we're going to garden through the fabric, and we're going to see how that works out for us. Hopefully it'll eliminate weeds, it'll conserve moisture in the ground, and hopefully we'll be able to control bugs and pests a little bit better. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. So stay tuned and just watch the before and after, and hopefully we'll take some pictures and show you all along the progress all along, and we're going to see how this thing turns out. Okay, we've got the garden cleaned up. We've moved all of our boxes out. We just kind of stack them up out of the way so they won't be in our way whenever we're trying to lay down our fabric. all of our frames that we had laying on the ground, they weren't true raised beds like the other two that we have that are up and they are filled up with soil, but we do have to top those up. Anyway, we got our fabric rolled out, and I bought over 300-foot roll, 6 foot wide, and each one is sectioned off in 1 foot sections. Now, our first border bed that goes around our garden is 24 inches wide, so that's going to take up 2 sections. Our pathway is about 2 foot, so that's going to take up 2 sections, and then we'll probably trim off the last little bit, and we'll use it in another area, maybe a pathway or something. But we laid our fabric out on the ground out here. We're going to cut it to fit and then take it in the garden. That way we're not trying to move around vegetables and stuff like that. We'll just take the fabric in there and we'll just place it in the areas that we really want it to go. All right, so let's get busy. Okay, welcome back. It took almost 2 weeks to get this garden covered in between the rains and stuff going on. It was a lot of work to get all this nursery cloth laid out, but we finally got it. Now we're getting ready to move on to planting out our spring garden. One of the things I wanted to show you is the first thing that we're going to plant is our tomatoes, and we got some tomatoes started in a bed over there. So I'm going to take you over to our little bed and show you where we started our seed, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about those tomatoes. So come on. Okay, this was our salad garden bed that we made last year, and I got it on wheels so we can move it around the yard, but it got so hot, salad died, so we parked it back here. But early spring, about February, as our severe freezes were heading off and it was starting to warm up, I came out here and I made a little row in all this potting soil that's in here. So I just opened up a little furrow and I sprinkled my tomato seeds in there. And so this soil is probably about 6 inches deep. Now I have Amish paste tomatoes, and as you can see, they're pretty good looking plants, little stout plants. We're looking to plant about 8 or 9 of these in the garden. And I got one little weakling in there, and I'm not sure that I'm going to plant that little weakling plant. That's probably just going to get culled out, and I'm not going to waste my time with a little weakling plant. So I want to get this on camera for you guys. Let's check out the root system on these. I'm going to dig these up out of this bed, and we're going to take them to the garden and plant them over there. So let's see what we got here.
This would be a great opportunity to put music while you're like dun 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 dun. Oh. That's good. Look at it.
You see that little weakling right there? We're not going to let it die. We're going to plant that back in there just to see what it's going to do. We'll give it a fair chance. So we'll take that one over there. Now the reason I did this is because whenever I was a little kid, my grandmother had an old wash tub, galvanized wash tub, and it had potting soil in it, and that's where she would sprinkle her whole package of tomatoes that she was going to plant out in the garden. And she would start that in the barn to where it would get morning sunlight, but it was under the eave of the barn, so they would be protected from any light frost. And she would go out there and she would dig out a few, and then she would give them to me for me to plant in my garden. And so I just kind of wanted to relive that little moment and plant seeds in here, and just kind of take me back to when my grandmother was doing it and when she would give me those tomato plants. So we're going to dig these out real quick. Well, the root systems aren't as good as what I would hope that they were going to be. They're decent. They're going to live. They're not as robust as I would have hoped. All right, we got our tomato plants, so let's head on over to the garden. Let's pop these in the dirt. Are you ready? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Are you recording?
Yep.
All right, so we're over here at the corner of the garden where I put up the tomato cages, and I already took my little torch and torched a little hole in the ground covering in there. So I take my little spade, dig way down, and I had prepared this soil earlier with chicken manure and some fertilizer, so this soil's ready to go. It's not like I have to come in here and add all my amendments while I'm planting my plant all at one time. We're going to dig this down as far as we can get with this little shovel. Pop our plants in there. We're going to bury it all the way up to the bottom set of leaves. We're going to give it a good deep root system. All right. So this one's right on the edge of the fabric. So we're just going to pull the fabric back, and we're just going to dig our hole right there where that's at. Nice and deep. Grab a good plant with some good roots. Pop that in the hole, and you can lay these down long ways, or you can plant them straight down in the soil. But I like to have my roots as deep in the soil as possible. That way, when the surface dries out, all your roots don't dry out along with it. We're going to come back along and we're going to water these all in. So don't think that the whole planting process is over just because I'm putting them in the ground. These things are starting to wilt already, and they've only been out of the ground maybe 2 or 3 minutes. They don't take long. As you can see, I gotta work on my irrigation a little bit, but I got a little irrigation nozzle where each one of these little plants are going to be, so they get watered on a timer. But I'm having a little problem with my water well right now. There's a leak down in the well, so I got to get the well guy out here to fix my water well so we can have water throughout the garden again. Water on those things before they wilt all the way over. So the bad thing about these watering cans is they don't hold all the water you need. So we're using the old cat litter container to bring our extra water along. We're going to give these things a good drink of water. The good thing about this fabric is, because it's a woven fabric, all the water will go down into the soil, and it doesn't just stop. It doesn't just pool on top like it would if it was just solid plastic. We're going to allow a week and a half for these tomato plants to set roots and get established before we start feeding them with the fertilizer to get them going. Once they set their roots and they start showing signs of growth, then we're going to come back with a fertilizing regimen and start feeding and getting them up. Now the reason I went with Amish paste tomatoes is because they make a really large baseball size Roma type tomato, and we're going to do canning this year, and those are really good tomatoes if you want to do canning because they don't have a lot of juice in them. They're very meaty, so they make a good saucy tomato instead of a watery tomato.
I think there's squash behind you. At least that one in the front needs some water. Right there.
That one over there, it's having a hard time. I watered it with a little bit of fertilized water last night, but it looks bad. There's something wrong with it. Probably going to end up having to pull this one out, because if you compare it to those other two over there, this is not doing good at all. But we're getting ready to plant another whole. Fill the rest of this bed up with squash. I had some patty pan type squash planted over there. None of those came up, and so I had a few seeds from our straight neck or crook neck squash. They came up, so we're going to go back with our crook necks and just do the whole bed in crook neck squash. That's what we're going to grow out this year. But the other seed that I had, they were a few years old, so I wasn't surprised that they didn't come up. But I wanted to give them a chance just to see. We're just going to finish out this water, and the next thing we're going to do is probably go to town, get our pepper plants, and then we'll pick this video back up when we're planting out our pepper plants, and we'll show you what kind of pepper plants we're going to go with this year. Okay guys, we've reclaimed our garden. We've put down the fabric, we've sown some seeds, and we're trying to work with the vegetables that we did start but that we didn't pay any attention to. As you notice, I still got to get to the onions. I got to weed, fertilize those. Didn't do much with our potatoes. Those are just going to be a wash this year. We didn't fertilize them, we didn't weed them. We just didn't take care of them, so no potatoes this year. But the turnips are looking decent. Won't be long, another couple days we're going to have to put turnips in the freezer. Neighborhood kids on the floor.
Neighborhood what?
Neighborhood kids on the four-wheelers. And then we were able to get some sweet red Marconi peppers plugged in. Got those 2 foot apart, 6 of those. Got some peas coming in on the trellis over there, so that'd give us a little fresh eating of peas. Our broccoli got ate up by caterpillars. I gotta get in there and weed that, but it's just starting to put broccoli heads on it. I'm not expecting much out of the broccoli this year. Our squash over there, they're starting to put on a few squash. We've come back after we put the fabric down, and we've put some seeds in the hole, so we're getting ready to start a whole new batch of squash coming. And then we got tomatoes in the ground over there along that fence. Those are starting to overcome the shocks. We're putting fertilizer them. We'll get them up, get them growing. We got another bed that's empty over there. Well, I don't know what we're going to put in that bed yet, but that whole back fence, we've just started some more peppers from seeds, different varieties of peppers. So we're probably going to put our new varieties of peppers along that fence. And then we got some cucumber vines, and we got pumpkins on that back row. This bed, we've got pink eye purple hull field peas coming up. And the one next to it, we've got Clemson spineless okra coming up in that one over there. As you can see, we've got 4 rows of okra, and you see it just starting to pop the ground over there. And we put 2 seeds per hole. We're going to thin that back to 1 plant per hole, but we plant them in here pretty tight. That's so try to get just a quick harvest of okra, because once it gets hot, I'm not really motivated to get out here and harvest the okra as often as it needs harvested. So we're going to get it up, harvest some okra, and be done with it. We got a Cherokee tan pumpkin on that back fence. It's just starting to climb, so it won't be much longer before we have our pumpkins starting to bloom. On the outside of the garden out there, you see that we got rattlesnake green beans on the trellises. Those have already popped the ground, and it won't be long. Those will start coming up over the trellis. So hope you like what we've done with the garden. Stay tuned for future garden updates, and we'll be showing you the garden as we get more involved with it and it starts growing. We're going to give you some tours. So one of the other things that we wanted to do is we wanted to cover this up. We planned on cotton gin trash from our local cotton gin. We wanted to lay that down over the fabric, and that's to hold the fabric in place, block out the sun, and help retain moisture even further. But it's wet right now. We're not able to get down there and get any of that gin trash. So that's another one of the things that we're going to do to the garden that hasn't been done, and we don't know when we're going to get around to it, depending on the weather. So if you like what you see, if you like watching, I encourage you to subscribe, share, and give us a like. Leave us a comment below and let us know what you think. And we'd like to know what you're doing. So thanks for watching.